Yeah, record on this computer. Welcome to my podcast. Today's dream, tomorrow's reality. My name is Vickie Poole. I'm a master transformational coach specializing in habit change. And this podcast is sponsored by the Enlightened Peach and is all about embracing our mosaic life. And some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host. And today I have a wonderful guest, Georges Cordoba, and I'll be introducing him or letting him introduce himself in just a few moments. But if you have any ahas, questions, appreciations, please leave a comment or a voice message. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. So now let's get started. So Georges, if you don't mind, just go ahead and tell everybody just a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me, Vickie. It's always a pleasure. And yes, my name is Georges Cordoba. I'm a holistic transformational health and life coach, functional nutritionist, and next week I will be a rapid transformational therapist. I'm going to add that to my coaching protocol. I'm very excited about that. I help people. Actually, my niche, if you will, is work with people that are dealing with cancer, particularly fathers or mothers with young children. When I was 42 years old, it seems like a long time ago, but I had an advanced cancer, and my kids, 5 kids, were very young, from 14 to 7. And that made me change my career. I was an executive in technology, but all this experience that lasted quite a while really made me change my life and made me really find my purpose. I'm originally from South America, Caracas, Venezuela, but I've been in the States since 1978. And so today, what I do instead of technology is I help people that are dealing with cancer. I help them transform their health and vitality. I know Vickie for a while. We were cohorts and the Health Coach Institute. We both acquired our holistic transformational coaching MBA, and here we are. We were discussing that we have some notes. We worked a few labs, and that was the client, and she was the client. Obviously, vice versa. One acted as a coach, the other one a client, and vice versa. And we still have the notes. I have them, but you surprised me today with these notes 5 years ago. Amazing.
I know. I'll just share with everybody that I was trying to purge and declutter my office and get rid of papers that I no longer needed and kind of file a few things. And while I was doing that, all of a sudden I saw these two little, see, you can see my papers here, 2 papers here where I had taken notes from sessions that we did where we were taking turns on being the client and the coach. And there was, so I read to Georges all the different things that I had on here. And the really cool thing is that it's been 5 years. It might be a little bit less. I'm thinking it was 5. But all the things that he told me that he was aspiring to do and be, he's done them all. And so that is so remarkable. And I definitely appreciate you. And I also want to tell everybody that we had previously done this podcast. There was once that you were a guest, and then we were doing it again. And somehow my technology did not work, and we did this amazing podcast. I was so excited. And when I went to do my thing with it, there was no recording. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that was so good. So Georges has graciously agreed to be on here again. And like I told him, I said, well, if it didn't record, that just means there's some kind of something amazing going to be coming out of this one. So
That's right.
Yes, and I have sent you a few people. I don't know how many of them actually hire you. I know some have,
Mhm.
because I have been really amazed with the amount of people that I've come in contact with in group settings and client settings and everything, to discover the amount of people that have cancer and are just blindly trusting everything that the medical industry is telling them, even if it makes them sick and that their last few years are horrible or whatever. And so, one of the things that I do love about you, of the many things, is that you have experience to share with people of your journey, which makes it so much better. I will say, one person I was talking to said that she had hired a coach, and or I don't remember if it was a coach or a therapist or whatever, to work through with her
Mhm.
cancer, and that she started having a hard time with this person because she found out that the person had never had cancer. So they were
Mm.
only speaking from the knowledge that they had learned from others and from a book and that kind of thing, whereas you were speaking on personal
Mhm.
experience. And so I did share the information with her as well. But it's just mind blowing when you look at the amount of people who have cancers. And so, even like you, I'm a health and life coach. I'm not a cancer coach, but to me, it's like, if we can get people at the place where they don't have anything wrong, or they have something small that's wrong
Mhm.
with their health, then we can help to coach them and get them into a place where they never have this catastrophe. Because it seems like there's so many people that will just be like playing Russian roulette with their life, and they have to get to a place where it's like God steps in, the doctor says, you got cancer, you're about out of here, man. And
Mhm.
that's when they start doing something. So I know you probably have a
Right.
lot to say on that. So if you want to, I mean,
Yeah,
because that's a big thing to me.
absolutely. And it all starts with the mind. But I must say, with our let's say our anecdote that we worked 4 or 5 years ago, you know, people don't understand this, but people don't plan to fail in their life. They just fail to plan. And when you and I were talking, it was all about planning. If you set a roadmap and you stick with it, you take action, you will end there. 5 years we're gonna pass anyway. I could have
Hmm.
just been here doing nothing in these 5 years and not accomplishing that. So it's all about planning. But in terms of cancer, you touch a little bit the point on how can we help this everybody and somehow in prevention.
Hmm.
At this point, when I just did a talk in Toronto in Canada in a summit, it was a plant-based summit. um, I'm not plant-based, about 90% vegetarian. I do have a little animal protein in here and there, and as a nutritionist I believe that we need some, depending especially in our metabolism and blood type. But in the US, one of two women will be having an experience with cancer, and one of three men. And when you look at, and by the way, the last few clients that I've been working with, they're less than 35 years old, 38,
Mm.
38 down to 18.
Yeah.
And you're wondering what's going on. Obviously, we have adult folks as well, but the question is, why are so many people getting inflicted with this disease? And it is not just about what we eat, but who we are, what we're eating. And as I went to do my annual checkup I'm a cancer survivor, by the way. I was given 4% chance of surviving. My melanoma went to my brain. I had 8 tumors. I had altogether 10 surgeries in 10 years, and a couple of the tumors in my brain were not operable. I had 8 tumors. They did 4 craniotomies, a couple of gamma knives, and with the grace of God and some stuff that I did, I actually shared it in my book. I'm here. And so I shifted careers and began to help people. The thing with cancer, in order to really prevent the disease, which we can, we have to make some changes. And people really don't understand or don't seem to have in our days the time to do anything. They're just in this in this race. You wake up in the morning and you're already thinking of what you're going to do. You eat or not eat breakfast, or if you eat, you're in the car eating fast. You're going. Everything is a speed and noise and stuff, and that's what is creating this
They don't call
particular
it a rat race for
situation.
nothing, do they?
Exactly. And this is really impressive. When I was going, I did this 2 weeks ago in the summit. Every time I'm going to go do a talk, I do the state of health in the US, even if it's 6 months apart. Sometimes don't change that much. And I did this time the Canada state of health. And just so you have an idea, 48.7% of the US population has one or two chronic diseases, not only cancer, diabetes, depression, heart disease, you can make all kinds, but not only one. In many cases are two. In Canada, even though they have a much smaller population, is 33%. That's pretty high as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go through South America, Europe, and this thing is really a pandemic. And many things are the foods that we eat. Other ones are an overall. I work an integral body, holistic, the mind, the emotions, um, the spirit, and the mental part. And so, as I told you the first time, it's almost like my metaphor is a four-legged table. Each leg is one of this physical, emotional, mental, and the spiritual body. If one of those are missing, the table simply just don't stand. And so what happens, what I have been finding out, is that there is a lot of confusion also out there in terms, there's so many things and there's so much information that you could get confused really easy. Well, do I do the keto diet? Now I heard the paleo, now it becomes completely plant-based, and or don't even think about it. You're so stressed out and in a hurry that you don't even take 20 minutes for lunch. So there's a lot of stuff that we teach some of in the health coach business to teach people how to eat. 25% really is what you eat. Everybody's worrying about their diet. Just yesterday, I had somebody ask me, have you heard of this supplement or this supplement or this stuff, something from coming from a snake? Or, it's like, wait, there's so many things that people claim that would help you, but it's not what you put into your body, it's also who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And this dermatologist that I went to for the first time, I moved almost 18 months ago. So I was doing all my new doctors and primaries.
So are you still in Miami?
No, I'm in the state of New Mexico. I'm
Okay.
in Las Cruces, New Mexico. This is the university where I studied, and I
Okay.
played tennis for the team and so forth. And she was telling me, I talked to her about this kid, 18 years old, with a malignant melanoma tumor in the brain. And the kid was not even going to the beach. There is a misconception that obviously, if you get too much exposure through your life with the sun, you accumulate this radiation, that's what it is. And finally, it really goes through your skin. The melatonin cells they just go crazy, and that's where this thing starts. And it's very aggressive. But she told me, well, we found out that even melanoma and skin cancer is emotional. Every disease comes from emotional issues.
Yeah.
And another thing that is important, this is I learned when I decided, in my case, I decided to stop chemo and radiotherapy, and I went natural. And one of the things that I learned before I studied functional nutrition is that all disease, all chronic disease starts because we have inflamed tissues. Our bodies are inflamed. That's the cause. 100% all the diseases, unless you break a leg, you're surfing, you hit your head, or you had an accident, yeah, and you need to be, surgery. But chronic disease starts, the basis is the infectious or really inflamed bodies. And why does that happen? And so let's say I have a client, for example, a couple of clients, they're plant-based and they got sick. But when you look at the other, that's the physical body. And when you look at the other one, especially the emotionals and the mind, you realize that they have a lot of issues. And when you eating, it doesn't matter. Like I told you, 25% is what you eat and 75% is who you are. So are you chewing fast? Are you like the average number of chews in America is 6?
Yeah.
So just right off the bat, the digestion is already disrupted because digestion starts in the mouth. You need to chew so the saliva enzymes can process the food and properly send it down to the stomach. That doesn't happen. We're supposed to chew between 20 and 32 times. So that's an amazing tip, because if you do that, by the way, without dieting, you're going to lose weight. Right now, if you reverse that let's say the habit, that quickness of eating, you have an hour. If you're an employee, you have an hour for lunch. Why do you only take 10 minutes, 12 minutes? Or you got to do errands, or you're eating when you're doing the errands, fast food, quote
Yes,
unquote.
yes.
And so that's just right there is an amazing way to reduce the amount of inflammation we have in the body. Because when you can go through a proper digestion, the body has, the stomach particularly, does not know but to send it to fat, and there's stuff that is going to go through the small intestines to your bloodstream, and that stuff is not well processed. It affects your immune system, and it starts to create acid in your body, and that's how we get sick. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things that I teach in the beginning, and then we really go deep into emotional and mental. I teach people that the power of the mind is part of what I did to survive. I explained it a little bit on my book. I'm writing a second one. Well, I already have the plan and I have the whole outline, but
But
it is,
before we keep going, if you don't mind, I just want to interject a little bit. I have a
yeah.
client right now that, I created a journal for her. So she has to time her 20-minute meal, and that's part of her journal that she has to go through. And then talking about how it's the chewing process and the saliva that actually is where the digestion starts. Well, I've started also, like this particular client, I told her that digestion starts in the cooking process too. So it's, like I referred to, like, if you've seen a movie of an amazing chef and they're smelling the food and they're just, you can just see they're flowing and everything. So her task for this week was to pick one day that she was going to create this experience during her cooking. And so I told her, I said, I want you to put on some music, whatever really feels good. And then I want you to slow motion doing all your stuff and just really enjoying it. And I told her, I said, I want you to video some of it because I want to see. But and it's something that I don't do all the time, but that's one thing I'm working on implementing in my life too, is to just enjoy the whole process so that my body's starting to get a little bit into the knowing the saliva, and because what, that smell and seeing the food and all that begins. And so that's one of the things that I've started getting my clients to do. Because I started doing that for me, how it is, because we tend to do things that we need to do for ourselves. And it was just in that process of trying to help myself with not only getting my 20-minute meal, which I will tell you, because I'm a hairstylist first before I was ever a health and life coach. And we're usually wolfing our food down in between clients. And so we
Yeah.
could go out, there's a group of us, we could go out to dinner, and 5-10 minutes into the meal, we're completely done. And, and other people haven't
Mhm.
even gotten their food and stuff, and we're completely finished. So
Yeah.
that was definitely one of my core things that I had to change. And it wasn't that easy. I
No,
didn't
exactly.
realize how much focus it takes, especially in the beginning, to chew for that long,
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. And you just said it, as coaches, we have to walk the talk. You mentioned this client that is working with somebody to help her with her cancer. Uh, it's about walking the talk. And again, understanding that it's not only, I mean, what we put in our body, we also like are receiving toxins from our skin because we are in the environment. There's a lot of pollution, believe it or not, in many places, and you don't realize it. There's many factors, but at the end of the day, though, to break those habits, and you know it as well, we need to really work on our mind, with our mind, and understand it. And that's where I really focus, not only when I was sick, visualizing my tumors going away in many different ways. One of them was the pac the Pac-Man game, those creatures going.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I used that twice, 3 times a day. I would visualize this creature going around and eating all the tumors. And this is very powerful. And one thing that I would want to share with your audience is that the mind there's about there's 12, there's 13, there's a debate on that, but I say there's 12 rules of the mind. And one of them is the mind learns by repetition. So it's not easy, as you said, to change from eating 10 minutes, taking 10 minutes for a meal, to even go to 12 or 15,
Yeah.
because the mind is already used to, a pattern. And
And it
so
doesn't like to change.
it doesn't. So, but the good news is that if you keep insisting, affirming, and keep it in mind, see, the mind does everything you say or think, or see. It works really hard with your emotions and the body to make it happen, whether it's true or false. That's another rule of the mind.
Or good or bad.
It doesn't, or good or bad. Whatever you say, whether it's true or false, negative or positive, good or bad, it happens. Because if you sometimes you don't even realize it, but you're thinking it all the time. So it's very simple. The mind say, okay, this is what Georges want. Let's make it happen. But if you can change that, the mind is also, another rule is that the mind goes to what it is familiar. And you mentioned in a second, a few minutes ago, that everybody right now, if they get cancer, for example, that's the topic today, they go running to an oncologist and somebody with a white coat to get help from them. And that is not the case. But the point is, and I said with my own experience, since I was little, I lost some family members with cancer. I always and I saw always the pattern. Oh, we gotta go to the oncology, the chemotherapy, the radiotherapy. So I grew up, and my mind was familiar with that, and that's the first thing I did. I did it for 7 years until I realized that it's been surgeries, remission, recurrence, treatment, surgery, remission. And on year 7, I decided this is not working. And the fact is that, I have to say this because I'm an advocate. I love what I do. I like to teach people that they can do it. They can do it even by continuing their traditional stuff, but start doing some other things, making the mind familiar with other things. And there's another truth. If we, Vickie, we give all the power to these folks.
Yeah.
Whatever the doctor said, they go, oh, the doctor said, the doctor said, and the doctor said, and the doctor really does not know anything else but the oncology. They're not not therapists, they're not nutritionists, none of that. That's why
Mhm.
functional nutrition is functional medicine is starting to come up, because they're realizing that they can't cover it all.
Right.
They gave me some nutritional, um, let's say, advice to not lose so much weight. And when I found out later, actually, it was worse. I mean, they were giving me stuff that had 25, 22 grams of sugar, the little drinks, and sugar is the worst thing. It brings
Yeah.
acidity to your body and creates an environment where these cells thrive to grow and reproduce. So the trick is learning how to eat in terms of the time, chewing, etc. But also when you're eating, it doesn't have to be an extreme thing. Is learning how to create a balanced pH plate where this is one of the first things that I learned when I was deciding to go natural, is that disease cannot grow in a balanced pH. I
Right.
have an ebook that I could share with your audience if they want. I already have it on my drive. I give them the link and they can go and download it. And a couple other things that are, if they're going through cancer, are very important for them. There's great tips, but a couple of things related to not losing the power to their own internal power to the doctor, and go back and create a, let's say, begin this attitude of being a patient. You're not if you take that attitude and say, the doctor that said that if I go to the bathroom at 3 in the afternoon, I have more chances to get more cancer. I'm just saying, I'm
Yeah.
being, joking about it,
Not
but
taking everything as that's the gospel.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that I also share in my book that I did, protecting yourself from the fear of others, because cancer became a word in uppercase and bold letters, and it's
Yeah.
not the case. It's something that is happening in your body. It was created by ourselves, and we have the power to, even with the aid of traditional, if we want to go that way, but you can do it without that, and that's what I decided to do, and here I am 11 years later, cancer free.
Yes. Thank you. I'm
So
so
yeah.
glad too. There's just something I want to touch on, because I think you mentioned it a little bit, is, what our expectations are,
Mm,
as far as getting cancer and things. And so to me, the worst thing in the world is when people start looking at, well, my mother had this, my brother
mhm,
had this, and not even, it's almost like they don't look at the fact that they grew up in all the insane environment. So they were, just constantly doing the same thing. So it's going to create that, because you and I both know, and people that are listening may know about epigenetics as well. But
mhm,
epigenetics means that all these different dormant genes are in your body. So everybody has a cancer gene in their body. Everybody has a diabetic gene in their body. All of these genes are there. It's just your lifestyle is what loads the gun and pulls the trigger. And
absolutely.
so you can have all of that in there. So if you have a relative that had all kinds of things, you don't even have to have any of it, just
Mhm,
because you don't perpetuate the same lifestyle of eating and behaviors and thoughts and all that they do. And I think
yes.
sometimes people just resign themselves, or at least that's my experience from talking to clients and everything, that they just resign. Well, I knew I was going to have high blood pressure because my father did. I
Mm,
knew I was going to get cancer because that's what my mother died of. And they just are constantly um being fed that by, when the doctors say, well, what's your family history, because we got to know what you
there
got
you go.
coming up. And so it's, to me, it's like, I love that we can educate people to know that that doesn't have to be their legacy. Just because that's
Exactly.
part of their family history means they can be the one that breaks the cycle to take better care of themselves and be more aware. Because once you get the awareness, it's kind of like, to me, the matrix, the blue pill, the
Mhm,
red pill, you
yeah.
can decide, do you want to stay blind and just follow what everything else is happening, or do you want to, and for life of me, I can't remember if it's the blue pill or the red
Mhm,
pill that gives them
yeah.
enlightenment, but
Yes.
But, it's like having like conversations like this that help
Hmm.
people to see that maybe I've been thinking about this a little bit wrong. And so I love when we can maybe, have them at least question, the validity of this is just my lot in life.
Hmm. Absolutely. Wow, that's very, very, very good point. With epigenetics, not only is everything that you described with the genes and so forth, is that with the mind, we can actually manipulate, we can change some, not the DNA, but the genes.
Right.
We can actually modify them. And that's pretty much without really knowing then, because that book and this new studies and research came after I went through my 10-year battle. But it happened. When I look back, what the things that I decided to do caused some changes in my genes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the first one of I'm not sure from my mother's side, but maybe 12 relatives, grandparents, uncles, that died from cancer, including my mother. My mother smoked though, so and smoked a lot since she was 17. She died of lung cancer, and I was diagnosed. But the thing is, and you just said it, I grew up seeing that, so I started to remember what I said: what you think, what you say, or what you see, you start believing in your mindset. If I keep saying, wow, maybe someday it's going to happen to me, I think it's going to happen to me because it's in the family. And now knowing what I know, no, it wasn't the case, but I did get it. And the first thing that we need to do, and it's not easy, it's really a psychological roller coaster, particularly the first two months at least. And but the first thing is understanding that it was us that caused it. We try to blame everything. Why me? This and that and whatever. Like you said, why don't we just think about it? And the moment that we realize, wow, it was me. What did I do? What happened? And and it took me almost 7 years to realize that because I was so familiar with
Mm-hmm.
the one quote unquote only solution, which is not the real case. And I would offer your audience, this stuff. I have a folder that has some very important information, including not to give your power to the person that you are, by the way, employing to help you.
Mm-hmm.
He's your employer. You have all the rights to ask him all the questions. Don't start anything without ask questions. For example, doctor, do you have patients that I could talk that, are 5 years already in remission with this medicine that you're going to give me? Let's see what he tells you. Or how about,
Yeah.
or she, how about 10 years, doctor? How about if I don't do anything? How long do I have? And there's about 12 questions that are very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
you know
very
what?
valuable information
Oh,
there.
and by
Yeah.
the way, you're gonna pay all this money, whether it's to the insurance and co-payments. So why don't you educate yourself before the worst thing it could happen that you choose some other employee or some other doctor to do the work. But get familiar, very familiar. Don't just take it like, amen, the doctor said this. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff going behind the scenes there that people need to know. And if you ask, and you see if just ask and stay quiet to see what they answer. I have that
Gotcha.
questionnaire and
Okay. Yeah.
available for folks.
Very
I have
cool.
the ebook and a table of foods that will show you what foods are acidic and which ones are alkaline, so you could have a balanced plate. And if
Mm-hmm.
you have a balanced plate and do what you and I were talking a few minutes ago, eat slow. What you mentioned on the cooking, as you're cooking, there's another thing that you and I know because we both went through that class. It's called sensual eating. You know, when right before you're gonna eat, take a couple deep breaths. Nobody's telling you to be in a hurry. Take a few deep breaths so your nervous system thinks that you're relaxed. You're not going to produce cortisol, which is really what messes up the whole process. and inflames your body. So take a deep breath, look at the food and enjoy the colors, what you just created with your own cooking. And in a way, and I do it, and not only because I'm a person of faith, but I'm thankful for that meal, because the truth is that 8 out of 10 people in the world don't have that meal.
Mm-hmm.
So even with that, it changes your entire attitude when you're eating. And that's really what it's all about. And you just said it, it seems simple, but it's hard, because we're just already in this rat race, and we're thinking, by the way, we think about 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So yeah, very good stuff. Very good point about the epigenetics. Cancer is not a hereditary, is lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that is amazing to me, and I'll just share, and then this doesn't have anything to do with cancer, but my children's father passed away from a massive heart attack. And this has been quite a few years ago. But it was actually a second heart attack. So his first heart attack, he was a smoker, he was a fast food junkie, and he wasn't overweight. He probably only needed, if he needed to lose anything, it was maybe 5-10 pounds. So really wasn't that big a deal. But he had high cholesterol. And then he had his good cholesterol was low. It was, so there was a lot of stuff going on. And so one of the things that the doctor told him was that you've got to de-stress. You're going to have to change the way you're eating, because you can't keep eating this way and your cholesterol keep going, because you're in danger of a stroke or another heart attack. And so right afterwards, he started eating better. He stopped smoking. He started going for long walks. He started going fishing to relax. And he did all of that for maybe close to a year. And then it was like he started reverting back slowly into all those old behaviors, because that's what we're used to. And for him, I think it was that he was so scared when that happened that he was going to die, that then he was doing this out of a fear-based change in his lifestyle. And then after a while, it's like the fear was farther away, and so he couldn't remember how it felt, and he just reverted. And so the reason I'm bringing that up for our listeners is that we can have all the good intentions in the world of making a change. And you and I both do hypnosis and things like that to help people with those changes. But the thing too is that one of the things I like to revisit often with my clients, and I'm sure you do as well, and yours may not have the same issue because they're dealing with cancer. So it's not the same as, I'm pre-diabetic and I don't want to become diabetic. That what you've got is a lot more intense. So it may not be this way. But for my clients, I remind them quite often what their reason for doing this is. And, and so one of the things, if you can get hypnosis to help you, that's great. And George's and I both do that. But the thing too is to be in control of what you're doing and figure out exactly what it is that is your really strong reason for wanting to make this change in your life. And then if you ever feel yourself kind of, because you can kind of feel it starting to happen. You may do a few things and then all of a sudden you realize, ooh, I haven't done that in a long time. Why am I doing that? And that's when you go back to, what is the reason I wanted to do this to begin with? And if you can't get a handle on it, that's when, if you haven't already, you've reached out to somebody like us. And whether it's another hypnotist or another coach, the main thing is that you get help, because even like me, I have a coach, because there's for me, there's things that they might call me on, and say, wait a minute, you said that wasn't what you wanted to do. And they help me to see things that I can't see, because the old saying is, you don't know what you don't know. And just like you and I both know, that a 1% change every day is all you need to really make a big change in your life, but it can go the other way too. It can be a 1% change in the wrong direction will put you right back to where you wanted so much faster than you could ever imagine, unless you do the things to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right. Well, great points. You touched on purpose. Why are you want to want to do this? I heard a pastor one time saying that we all want to go to heaven, but not today.
Yeah.
And I laughed. Everybody did the same. Well, it's true,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And but it's interesting because we don't think about that we're going to leave one day, but why accelerating the process? And
I
and you
love that. I
talked
love that. Why
yeah,
accelerating the process?
yeah. And then the other thing is you talked about intention, and that's really another key point. Intention without action becomes an illusion. And we were talking about planning instead of not planning to fail, but really plan. And all this stuff, it's key. And we tend to become very distracted in our daily life. And days pass. I mean, not too long ago, it was February. We're in mid-October right now.
I
I
know.
mean, time is going to continue to go forward. And so, we have two choices. If you hear this stuff, and this is our advocacy, and don't do anything, you're choosing to accelerate your process, unless you have an accident or whatever. But you have some control of how long you're going to leave. If you have a purpose, and make sure that you change some things in your lifestyle. I have a colleague, and I use his quote in my first chapter in the book. The message, his quote is, cancer is nothing more than a divine touch in your shoulder, and it has a message. And the message is, Georges, you have to change your lifestyle because you're killing yourself. So you can choose to kill yourself, or work on your health, recuperate your health, which, by the way, your body's so wise that will do it. Like you say, in no time it can reverse it, and in no time it can make it worse. So you have the choice. And obviously we could talk here for 3 hours, but in that particular folder that I have for share, I also have the rules of the mind, which are very powerful. If you don't have it, I think, well, you have access to them. I gave you the link last time, but I'll give it to you after the maybe I did another folder, but I'll send it to you so you can share it with your audience. That's completely, a gift, but it's a powerful gift that if you use it, you'll be okay. Look, yesterday was my birthday, and my daughter surprised me. She came from Miami. The boys, I call them the boys, they're all in the 30s. Claudia's the only one in the 20s still. But we went to dinner. She took me out to dinner, my wife, and then because we have a nephew that lives close by, he came, and he was showing us his grandfather's. He inherited his grandfather's alive, but he inherited the pickup truck. And those days, those things were iron, and he's rebuilding it and stuff like that. And he was showing us the interior. And after dinner, it was dark. And so we have our phones looking at in the interior. And I noticed that he had 3 cans of soda. I'm not going to say the brand. But soda is soda. Right. And I just wanted to say this because if you just had a way to get rid of sodas, you are really accelerating the process of balancing your pH. 1 can of soda has 11 teaspoons of sugar. And you know how much water you need to drink to actually alkaline yourself again? 32 glasses of water in order to alkaline 1 can of soda. He had 3. So, nothing else, no more to say. And so that's one of the things that I teach people about. Really read food labels. You and I went through this. We did the same protocol. You know,
Mhm.
that is so powerful. Read the food labels. Sometimes they tell you it's sugar-free, but look at the different names that they give to sugars, you know, corn syrup and stuff like that. You know, and it's not hard. Once you learn, it becomes like, again, a habit. If you do this stuff for 21 days, it starts becoming familiar to your mind, and you start, you know, the mind says to the rest of the body, your subconscious mind, hey, Vickie, it's changing. Look at this. We might
Mhm.
as well act upon it. And if you do have cancer or any chronic disease, even as your husband had, which is heart disease, you can reverse that just by, for example, if we have an acidic body, smoke, the nicotine has a lot of acid in the body, but and it's with, you know, we're not going to go there. What I want, the message is really that whatever you already have created because of lifestyle is not hereditary. You can actually let it go little by alkalining your body. Two things will happen. You have a balanced pH, and you'll see it in my ebook. A, disease can grow in there, not even colds. And B, if you do have a chronic disease, you are diminishing to the point that they cannot strive to live anymore, and they start to die and not produce anymore. Like you said, Vickie, we do have cancer cells, but if we have a healthy body, if we have a balanced pH, our immune system is in top shape.
Mhm.
So look how easy this stuff is. So if, for example, I have to, you know, we're none of us are perfect. My daughter that came to visit, she decided to go same thing, almost vegan. You know, she eats eggs and she eats tuna and fish. But you know, she's vegan. But you know what? She has this large, I'm not gonna say the brand, but every morning she gets this iced coffee that has half of that is sugar. And I say, Claudia, you know, you drop it down to 3 times a week. Don't do it like you said, little by little, short steps, and then see what happens. And then drop it one more day, and then have it twice a week. And then, you know, little by little, maybe in a month, don't drink it anymore. And you know, you'll call me and you say, Dad, my energy is different. I lost 7 pounds. You know, and what she doesn't know is that she's giving a break to the body that is working overtime to
Mhm.
process all that venom, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have a client right now currently that I had we needed to punch her efforts quick because she lost her father to diabetes and
Mm.
amputations, and she was on the path. And so I told her, I said, well, how fast do you want to work this? Do you want to just go for it? And she said, let's go for it. I said, okay, first thing you're getting rid of is sugar. And so she hasn't had sugar in over 3 weeks now. And I have her reading the food labels. I gave her the list of all the different names of sugar so that she can find it. And she was blown away with all the things that she was thinking she would still be able to eat that's
Mm-hmm.
had sugar in it. And some of it a lot and some of it a little, but still unnatural sugars. And the thing, I was talking to her just a few days ago, and she said that she has been so amazed that now that she hasn't had sugar for 3 weeks, she doesn't crave sugar. She heard somebody can have cookies right beside her, and she doesn't have that compulsion to eat it. And she said she doesn't have that 4 o'clock slump where she feels like she needs to have a nap.
Mm-hmm.
She's not bloated. She has the energy. She's sleeping better. And it was like she just had this list of on and on and on. She was talking about that, just that one thing
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
made a huge difference. And
Absolutely.
and so she's even learning to taste the nuances of food. And that's one of the things that people don't understand is food doesn't taste the same as it does if you have sugar
Mm-hmm.
hijacking your taste buds, because
Mm-hmm.
natural foods taste amazing. I mean,
Amazing.
things that you wouldn't even, a lettuce can taste sweet,
Oh, yes, exactly.
if you're not eating sugar. And so I'm actually doing a live master class on the 30th, and it's about sweet deception, about sugar in our food, and and it is going to be amazing. So I've got a quite a list of people that are going to be there, and I'm probably going to be doing it again because I did one last month, and everybody really loved it, and so I've tweaked it a little bit more and created new slides, and I'm doing it again. So depending on how this one goes, I may just start making it a monthly thing so that people can start just making it, getting more knowledge around it. Because
Wonderful.
and the thing is, nobody's saying you can never eat sugar again, because that's not realistic,
Right.
but it's not eating it all the time. And we would really be better off in some ways if we ate a candy bar and all of a sudden something popped out on our arm, to let us know, whoops, that's not a good thing. But we
Yeah.
don't have our results show up for a while.
Right.
And I think we mentioned it before, but one of my favorite books, and I refer to it often, is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And in there, he talks about, if we were to eat a hamburger every day, the first week, you're not going to notice any difference. It's not going to make you feel worse or feel better or anything. But over time, if you keep eating that hamburger every single day, then you're going to get where there's some things that are showing up in your blood work, and your body's starting to change, and the way you think and the way you feel. And so it's things accumulating over time, and that's where we get to that 1%. Whereas HCI always said small hinges swing big doors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And and you just touched it now. I wanted to add to it, but it's
Okay.
still it might sound redundant. Yeah. The other thing is that we're not suggesting anything related to, let's say, being in a concentration camp type of
Right.
attitude. No, you could actually even give yourself a treat for doing well and say, well, you know what, this Sunday I'm going to have a piece of cake. Why not? I mean, it's not, what happens is repetition. If you keep having, sweets every day, a sweet dessert every day, 7 days a week, having 3 Cokes or Sprites or sodas every day, give me the king size.
Yeah.
And
Super
all this
size me.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, your body is ultimately gonna send you a bill. And so we're not talking about extremes. We say, hey, be balanced, have a little bit of sugar. Maybe you may wanna, you like, let's say, I don't know, key lime pie. Okay, well, have one a month or once a week. Give yourself, if you eat 10 bananas in a day, that's gonna get you sick as well. Bananas are very acidic, and even though they're sweet, well, like sugar, they have a lot of, you'll see in this table that I'm offering you guys to take a look at. So, but you're right, Vickie, it's really little by little, like I told my daughter, I said, just reduce it. Don't do it every morning. Do it
Yeah.
3 times the first week, and then, 2 times. And next thing you know, you're gonna feel so good that you're gonna realize, oh, it was this drink that made me feel sluggish at 2 in the afternoon, and looking for more of that, because the body doesn't know, and it's still looking for the right nutrients for you to give them. And we get into this vicious cycle. Oh, it's the sugar, the sugar, the sugar. Boom, diabetes. You mention it. You'll get a bill somehow.
Yeah. One way or the other. Yeah. You can
Mhm.
either plan for this exceptional health, or you can leave it to chance and just know that it's not going to go well.
Exactly. No, and the other thing is really interesting. I use this a lot. We know what to give our pets. We feed our pets better in many cases than we feed ourselves. And how about our cars? We don't put water with sugar. We know what the car needs. You know what maintenance it does need, changing the oil, the air filter, all this stuff. Why don't we do it for ourselves?
Yeah.
Why don't we really create this mindset, as you were talking about, saying, let's take care of ourselves, and we really prolong our life. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for all of this. We're getting a little past on our time, but it's
Okay,
always so wonderful talking to you. And
likewise.
I always get such great insights, and I know everybody gets so much valuable information from what you share. So I want to thank you very much for that. So I just
You're
have
very
one
welcome.
question to ask you.
Mhm.
So I want you to just think about this for just a second. What is the legacy that you want to leave from all of the work that you're doing?
Hmm. It's a great question. Let's see. Well, for people to know that they have they have their intuition, and intuition is power. If they understand that healing is from the inside out, but you don't have to get to the point to having to go to a doctor. You can actually do that unless, like I said, you have an accident. So my legacy would be folks to know that disease doesn't have to happen if we take care, if we are good stewards of our bodies, our mind, our emotions, and our spirit, our connection to the source through nature, through mountains, the sea, your fellow person by you. Disease doesn't have to happen. We create our disease. Socrates said it. And by the way, if something happens, really, the pharmacy is the natural world. It was given to us. And when you look at all the supplements and stuff that are coming around, they all have complements of nature, turmeric, I don't know, uh, garlic, and so forth. So the legacy would be just be yourself and take care of your body. That's it, your body and your emotions, and obviously your mind. So, it's interesting you asked that. I know we are cutting time, but somebody asked me, um, I was interviewed by a fellow HCI colleague. She was my co-leader in South Florida when HCI had that. And she asked me the same question. She goes, because you have so much that you're sharing, what's going to happen, because it's you. And so that made me think. And so I'm working on some things to duplicate this message. It's not going to be me, maybe people that didn't go through the disease, but I'm thinking of, in my case, hiring survivors, people that have gone through it, which there are many people. Need to know that there's millions. By 2024, we'll have 18 million survivors in the United States, in a year. So, this thing is doable. And so my thing will be through books. I'm going through my second book now. Probably by the time, I'm not going to stop until the good Lord takes me. But the books will be another part of the legacy, because it is going to be all written there and also recorded with audiobooks. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. And I'll leave everybody with these last words from me. The best way to predict the future is create it. What are you creating? Mwah.
Amen.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Vickie.
My pleasure.
Take care.